Recently, there was a hip-hop public execution. And it wasn't in a rap battle. That is, on a live SDRM. Have you ever seen someone walk into a ring thinking they won, and then walk out as though history had struck them? Jim Jones was that individual. Indeed. And the slapping individuals. Oh, just Nas, also known as Godson, the lyrical murderer and Benzino. The man who still thinks he controls the society from a flip phone? But last night was different. In front of thousands of people, Jim Jones was roasted, toasted, and folded like unclean clothes in a Bronx laundry. You thought price battles was getting messy? No. This was a lyrical genocide in real time. You're a feature rapper in a world of classics. You don't belong here, champ. Nails basically told Jim during what started off as a casual conversation that turned into a full-fledged rap intervention. That man was only adding fuel to a fire that was already burning. So what really happened? In that live stream, why did Jim Jones look like an unpaid intern in the end? And why did Enna suddenly lose it after all these years of silence? Grab some popcorn. It's an awful one. Let's take a moment to revisit before we hip-hop justice was. Serve by examining Jim Jones' total devastation on that now famous live feed. So this is the scenario. The man who somehow made shouting into a microphone sound like culture. Jim Jones, the self-described street general and Dipset veteran, felt obliged to comment on Nas. Yes, Nas, you know, the guy that came out with Illmatic before most of these new rappers were even born. Whole generations of lyricists were born out of the pen game. That makes me queasy. What had Jim done? He took the conventional approach. He poked the bear. You see, this whole thing started months ago when Jim, in an interview that no one requested, jokingly questioned Nas's impact on contemporary hip-hop. He paused and said, yeah, Nas is cool, but is anyone really checking for him these days? Let's all take a moment to recognize that statement's folly. That insignificant comment, that passive-aggressive assault on a hip-hop behemoth. Indeed, it was not disregarded. Not by the fans, not by Nas, not by the hip-hop gods, who, to be fair, simply said, okay, let's teach Jimmy a lesson. Jim Jones has previous experience with contest. This man makes his living on drama. From his personal disputes to his split from Cameron to his moment when he feigned to cry about hip-hop and love, the man has been messy. We haven't even discussed the years he spent trying to prove to the public that he was more than just bald. But here's the problem. Being relevant via antics is not the same as being revered by legacy. Throughout her life, Nas has been a long-term planner. Doesn't rant, he doesn't throw tantrums very often. You lean back and sense it? Consequently, when he responded with a calm, measured live stream appearance instead of a diss track, the internet went crazy. Furthermore, Nas didn't come by herself to make sure the message was received. He was ready. Unexpected assistance. When you see that kind of backup, you check the live button again and reload your screen in disbelief. Benzino enters. Look, I can assure you that we have talked about Benzino, no matter what you claim. But when this man wants to be nasty, he brings notes, a grudge, and a front row seat to destruction. Situation was set up. Thousands of people observed. Comments are flying, screenshots are rolling, Twitter is about to take off. Nas then made a statement. It's not loud or angry. Surgical. You know, some people confuse volume with value. Just because you shout doesn't mean you have something to say, he said, looking directly into the camera frame. Boom! There was instant silence on the Jim Jones front. You could practically hear the Dipset chain hitting the floor. Now, let's talk about the factors that led to this live stream moment's violence. Nas wasn't only flaunting his lyrical skills. It was how effortlessly, without uttering a word, he ruined Jim's entire identity. He examined it closely. Nas was given decades for his legacy. Nas has both hits and timeless songs. Influence on culture. Men like Jim adopted the sound that Nas helped define. Then, like a true surgeon of shade, he delivered the coldest phrase of the night. Jim's career reached its zenith with a hook that was written by someone else. I compose legacies instead of jingles. Not a lot, and by now, it hadn't even become messy. No, that was only the opening sequence. Because Nas was sitting back, satisfied with the lyrical open-heart surgery he had performed when Benzino stepped in. I could see the smirk on his face, and I've been waiting years to say this. A lot of energy was present. Leaning into the microphone, he said, "Look, I've been in this industry long enough to know who's real and who's reality TV. Jim Jones, he's VH1, not hip-hop. Jim was just grilled, and the comments section exploded. Stop the stream, bro. I can't get over this. This is the worst loss for Dipset because Kim wore pink." By now, the stream had fallen into total chaos. Fans were screenshotting as if their lives depended on it. Blogs were creating headlines, and Twitter was already calling it the worst of the year. But let's not act as though this occurred overnight. The resentment between Jim and Nas has been boiling beneath the surface for a while. It's that unspoken split has long existed in hip-hop. The writers versus the hustlers, the intellectuals versus the screamers, and the queasy versus the Jims. Viral events, fashion, image, and street cred have always been important to Jim Jones. Feel ill. He has been in the cut, building empires without speaking until the need for a microphone arises. Therefore, when that incident happened during a random Tuesday night live stream, it felt more like a history lesson than a diss. As if the instructor had finally, Jim got up in the middle of class and said, "All right, enough cloning. Let's talk real music, but don't get it twisted." Oh, yes. He did try to explain himself. His usual vim, loud, energetic, full of hold-up, nah energy sprang into the stream, but it was already too late. The target audience has changed. The narrative had evolved. He also seemed less like a rapper and more like a man trying to swim in his own ego. This brings the first section to a close. Because just as Jim was attempting to recover, just as he was trying to salvage his reputation, and just as he was trying to win back the crowd, Nas dropped another verbal bomb. That ended it all. And that's exactly where the video begins. Jim Jones was visibly shaken and desperately trying to maintain his cool in front of a live audience. That's when Nas made the decision to reload. Ladies and gentlemen, leaning in, he cracked his neck, gave the camera that fake street tough look, and whispered, "Yo, listen, I respect legends, but don't play with me like I haven't put in work." Work, Jim. You had the same mixtape energy for 20 years. It's not evolution, it's repetition. There's a difference. You could literally feel the audience flinch. Nas replied, coolly and without missing a beat. It was poetic justice delivered via live stream. It wasn't even combat rap. In case that wasn't enough, Nas leaned in once more and said this atomic line: "Your entire discography is what I skipped through to get to the feature." The live stream conversation exploded with comments like L plus ratio plus cooked. However, since this is hip-hop, it's inevitable that things will go wrong. Then the fake investigative leak started because, in just a matter of minutes, industry sources leaked direct messages. And anonymous insiders started to come forth with stories that made this whole beef transition from hot to completely nuclear. An unnamed A&R insider claims that Jim Jones was effectively begging a number of CEOs for a versus fight against Nas in order to prove his cultural value. "Let me get nauseous. Bring the streets aisle," the messages said. "The crowd was mine." According to the source, executives left Jim on read. There was no response, no approbation, just silence, which only made him appear even more dumb in front of the public. "He's too quiet. I'll shake it up." The very individuals he thought would stand by him turned away from him when he tried to make a moment. However, it becomes juicier. Another false allegation claims that Jim Jones spent more than $100,000 on PR. TikTok influencers, and streaming farms to try to make himself more relevant after the live stream went viral and backfired. $20,000 for fake reaction videos that defended him, $15,000 for influencer tweets, $30,000 for streaming boosts for his latest single, and $35,000 for a crisis management firm who, insiders claim, only advised him to shut down and pray were all included in the purported invoice breakdown. While trying to clean up a digital blowdown he walked into on his own, this man allegedly lowered the price of a condo in Midtown. Nas, however, had already logged off and was quietly drinking tea, much like a warrior who had just finished wiping blood from his face, his sword, and the harsh reaction of the populace. That moment when you realize shouting "Ballin" can't save you from getting ethered. Jim Jones was only a guest in a Nazi and still got evicted. Jim's next mixtape better be called Apology. Letter Volume 1. Even celebrities joined in, or at least the fake ones were going to pretend they did for this script. Charlemagne the God allegedly said on The Breakfast Club, Jim had a midlife crisis in real time. It was beautiful. Like a god, Nas came in and went out like a ghost. Joe Button, you never miss a terrible moment. Lyrical assisted suicide was what others were saying on social media. This is why you stay in your lane. Jim still pays for studio time and argues like a man, despite the harshest criticism that Nas didn't even blink. Oh no, now let's talk about Jim's return attempt. 'Cause, according to the norm, he was not going to take the loss in silence. The next morning, he apparently went live from his car since, of course, he was wearing sunglasses. Inside, addressing his fans directly with the hip-hop genre's most overused word. Every one of you knows it. Lessons, not losses, are all that exist. I'm still outside. You're still out there, bro. Now the streets are telling you to go back inside and change your mind about a few things. But the drama didn't stop there. Supporters got involved. Old recordings of Jim insulting K and criticizing other legends. It has come to light that Razwan once claimed in an earlier interview that Illmatic was overhyped and ridiculed Talibel Kweli. Overblown. Oh, you mean the album that, on its own, altered the lyrical landscape of hip-hop? The public's animosity toward Jim was further heightened by resurfaced video. This was more than just a one-night roast for many. It came about as a result of Jim's financial success after years of being despised by the hip-hop community. According to alleged Spotify sources, Jim's streaming dropped by 27% in the 48 hours after the live stream. In the meantime, Nas's feeds reportedly increased by 36%. The return of Ether, Stillmatic, and Magic 2 is a reference to the art of skilled destruction. A viral meme featuring a Dipset chain with a fork was the funniest fake event. According to a tweet from one fan page, you came for a king. You left with a crown made of L's. Digitally clowned, publicly bruised, and musically humbled. Jim Jones is left with a sale tag, and the words, available now, slightly used, comes with emotional baggage. His followers are trying to distort it. The culture has already shifted to Nas, who is counting residuals while sipping green juice, and his employees are frantic. Because just as Jim tries to salvage his reputation one more time, the consequences take a more dire turn. Fake legal threats and the withdrawal of fictional company sponsors make the aftermath of this live stream even more graphic on camera. Jim Jones, obviously worn out, logs back on. The attempt to project a lack of worry through hooting up is failing. But, dude, I'm in pain. To control the damage, he starts with the conventional line. You people are overstating things. It doesn't even disturb me. I'm still making money. But what did the culture hear? Please stop. I've cried 3 times today and I long for the good old days. Because while Jim was out here trying to limit the consequences, it had already begun. Let's start by discussing the outcry from the fake industry. An unnamed executive of a major label who is clearly a fake claims that Jim's planned appearance at a large event, like Rap Royalty Reloaded, is covertly taken off the roster within 24 hours of the live performance. Stream. Why? After that live stream, we just got bad press. Look, our source says we booked him out of nostalgia. When a meme tries to make the news, nobody wants to watch it. It extended beyond celebrations. Allegedly, the gym was in negotiations with a fake sneaker company. A custom dipset partnership reportedly failed as well. Clown emojis and phrases like "Don't let this man put his name on anything with legacy" were posted on the brand's Facebook by sick fans as a result. Corporate sponsors don't enjoy controversy unless you're winning, and Jim was right now, losing badly. Then the threats of legal action began to spread. Jim's legal team reportedly contemplated sending Nas a marine sandus, according to unverified and undoubtedly invented sources. For what reason? There it was foggy. Some claim it was about defamation. Others called it public humiliation. One parody that made fun of Nas went viral. Jim is suing for damages after catching a lyrical fade on live stream. Fans knew exactly what he meant when he posted a picture of a chessboard without any explanation, and he didn't even respond. Jim's public relations team was doing everything they could to alter the narrative, and one advisor who wished to remain anonymous advised them to lean into the loss. Know who you are? Reddit threads went viral. YouTube commentary channels had a field day. Twitter turned into a war zone of clips, edits, and breakdowns akin to Rap CSI, and one viral video, Nas violates Jim Jones' frame-by-frame breakdown, garnered over 2 million views in 3 days because the fans couldn't stand it. Jim, however, used a different strategy, doubling down and asserting that the internet distorted everything, that Nas wasn't even stating facts, and that the live stream was altered. And there you have it. Error number 57. Jim wasn't on the winning side, and it was clear that the culture had taken sides. The hip-hop culture itself, however, might have dealt the greatest blow of all. Artists who had previously performed with Jim were either mute or abruptly joined the Nas train. False quotations started to surface everywhere. Press a T, allegedly. Jim deserves respect, but sometimes you need to know when to shut down and take a break. It sounds amazing, but it's likely not what Styles P said. Like a lawnmower trying to outrun a Tesla, Jim attempted to out-rap Nas. There is no doubt that the Lupe incident was a hoax. Let's talk about the financial consequences. A phony insider claimed that Jim's recent single, Rush Out Post Live Dream as a comeback anthem, was so unsuccessful that DSPs took it off of major playlists within 48 hours. The insider claimed we gave it a test push, but listeners kept skipping it after the first verse. Meanwhile, vinyl sales of Illmatic strangely surged once more, even on the 18th. And Nosh's archive enjoyed a boom, with Spotify claiming a fake 41% boost in Nosha-related streams. The same article claims that Jim tried unsuccessfully to market the tune on TikTok, spending up to $50,000 on influencers, dancers, and even a hashtag Jones revenge trend. The aspect that hurts the most is this. Fans started pleading with Jim Jones to officially retire, not as a joke, but as a gesture of goodwill. For 2 consecutive days, hashtags such as hashtag respectfully retire Jimmy, hashtag DIPSET done, and hashtag Jim Jones versus Quiet trended. And verified users, including phony verified users, joined in. In the midst of all this upheaval, live streaming, lost sponsorships, and digital dragging, Jim Jones still had one move left. And it was to drop a cookbook instead of handing up the mic. Jim apparently reached out to Cameron Yes, the same Cameron with whom he has been intermittently involved in a last-ditch effort to reintegrate Dipset into society and restore his significance. But Cam allegedly ignored him. Cam has been waiting for this man to collapse for years, according to one fictitious insider. With silent but sweet retaliation. A live stream that became a digital grave, a fan base split between laughing at a collapse and defending a legacy. A rapper who poked the wrong legend and Nas sitting in silence like a proud sensei are all that remain. He just taught the world that unless you're wearing armor made of classics, you shouldn't approach a king. Because Nas already benefited from this moment, which was not merely a diss or even a beef, but rather a reckoning, a cultural reset, and a reminder that respect must be earned. This marks the conclusion of the saga's video. Will Jim Jones bounce back, though? Or will he just become a footnote in meme history? In order to have the video taken down, we saw a man walk from the streets. If we've ever seen a speedrun to irrelevance, it's in less than 48 hours. But possibly upcall hip-hop needs this very much. With a 30-year resume and a following base that still cites Matic like holy texts. Perhaps rappers will now reevaluate their decision to become lyrical icons. Ballin' But Broken is a podcast that Jim might start after taking a long vacation from live streaming, but who knows? What we do know is that Nas accomplished more than simply triumph. He served as a reminder to everyone of what a true legacy entails: quiet, calm, and silent destruction without drama or shouting. That's more gangster than anything, Jim yelled, to be honest. Please share your ideas in the comments section below. We'll be watching. Because trust us, this story isn't over, not in this industry. Not with such a large ego, and most surely not while live streaming is still free. Please like, share, and subscribe. Since you are the real arbiters of culture, keep your mouth shut and your bars up till the next time. Did Jim have to pay for it? Has Nas gone too far? Will Jones be able to bounce back from this burning mess? It's impossible to predict when Nas will log back in.